Good morning out there, everybody. This is the Olosopher, ready to give you some more Olosophy. Now, I ain't get it in this morning. The muscles need rest sometimes. You got to let the muscles heal. That's a part of the muscles development, and it's the recovery time and letting it heal. So I didn't get it in Cumber Lang style this morning. But I'm always up in the morning. I'm always up early in the morning because the mind is constantly working, even though it requires sleep, but it's working, and so it's up early. And plus, I got to take my daughter to school in the morning, so that's another story. But the question I want to ask this morning is, how did the oppressor act one way, but tell us to act another? Again, I'm gonna ask that question: how did the oppressor act one way, but tell us to act another? Well, I'm gonna tell you something. The thing with Rosa Parks, and her stance and her refusal to give up her seat and stuff like that. And I know it was people before Rosa Parks that did the same thing, but Rosa Parks, was in the eyes of the public was more notable than a lot of people before her. But here's my thing. When they try to say the civil rights movement and Dr. King, Rosa Parks, Medgar Evers, and all they said that was nonviolent. The oppressor said that. That's by the oppressor's narrative, that it was a nonviolent movement. And I find it funny. I'm not gonna really say I hate it, but it bothers me when you get a group of people, of oppressed people, that act a certain way, like Moors are in the country. When they act a certain way, when they protest a certain way, you always have these people, the oppressor, saying like, well, why can't you follow an example of Dr. King, as if Dr. King was this saint, of this saint on how, to get peace and prosperity. Whereas you demonized Dr. King back in the day when he was doing what he was doing. But let's revisit that history. With Dr. King and, Rosa Parks. See, you got to understand something. Even Dr. King and Rosa Parks took an act of violence. They was pretty much violent, especially Rosa Parks. See, you got to understand, we got to stop living by their definition. See, the true definition of violence is not, going up to somebody, forcefully just beating somebody and doing something. See, you also breaking a barrier, okay? Breaking a parameter. That's an act of violence in itself too. See, when Rosa Parks didn't give up that seat, when she refused to give up that seat to that white man in the colored section, she broke a barrier. She said, F that, I ain't giving up my seat. What? Because it's not right. See, that in itself is an act of violence. Okay? So don't let them tell you that protests cannot go, and when you want rights, when you want justice and equality, that it's not going to require, it's going to require some act of violence. Okay? Anytime you break a barrier, anytime you break a rule or a parameter, that's an act of violence. You pretty much telling them, bump that, I'm ready for war. I'm ready for conflict. That's an act of violence in itself. Okay? And then we going to transfer it over to Dr. King. Okay? When they said his movement was nonviolent, that is not true. That is not true. If that was the case, then why did Dr. King take up arms? See, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know Dr. King had a permit for a carry concealed weapon, for a carry concealed gun. All right. See, a lot of people don't know that. See, this is what they don't tell you. See, this is what the oppressor don't tell you. So you mean to tell me if somebody had a carry concealed license, what are they getting ready for? Especially in those times, what are they getting ready for? What are they getting ready for? And and I'm pretty sure, look, it was a peaceful solution. He approached it with peace at first, but if the peace wasn't going to work, then what was next? See, he already was planning it. See, that's an act of violence in itself too. So again, I'm going to ask the question. How did the oppressor do one thing in his history and their history or their story, but then they tell you to tell you to go about it another way. See, like I said, and I know I visited this earlier in a video that I did a long time ago. How, when history has shown, when the oppressor was oppressed, they took the ultimate. They went with extreme. They took the extreme act of violence. They went to war. Okay? They went to war. They took up arms. They went out and killed. They went out and murdered for their peace, liberty, and justice, and all what they wanted. They cut it a piece of the pie. They went to war. But when you want your peace and prosperity, they want you to beg for it. They want you to sing for it. They want you to ask nicely. They don't want you to pursue it with an act of violence, because they know that's the only way you can get it. That's in human nature. When you want something and somebody's refusing you of something that you know that's rightfully yours, it's only in human nature. It's only natural. I ain't even just say it's human nature. It's animalistic instinct. Okay, that you're going to take it by force. If something that you know is rightfully yours is not given to you, you're going to take it by force. That's human. That's just nature. That's nature of all living things. But again, you asking the enemy of all things. Don't y'all get that? It's only natural of all things to take something by force, something that's rightfully yours, but you're asking the enemy of all things. I find that so ironic, So the thing, the thing that this is what I find so crazy. It's like, like I said, I use a lot of animal analogies. That's like the sheep. That's like the prey asking the predator, how do I go about living? Well, why would you ask the predator? Why would you consider that source? Why would you ask the predator, how do you go about living? If you're tired of being the prey, what you gonna do to the predator? When you know you have a right to live, what you gonna do to that predator? You gonna tell that predator, you gonna you gonna use force by telling that predator, listen, I'm no longer your prey. See, but again, that was another tactic the wolves to sleep, to use us like sheep so they could continue picking us off, so they could continue doing what they're doing to us. It's only natural. So don't let nobody discourage you when you know something rightfully yours. And again, I'm not sitting up here talking about destroying the world and nothing like that. I'm not trying to be violent, but understand something. It's only by nature. When something is rightfully yours, when you have a right to something, the only thing you're going to achieve it is by force. If you want a job, you think you going to sit back and somebody just going to say, here's a job? Doing it by force. Going out there, beating your feet, beating the pavement, looking for a job, right? That's by force. All right? But when you know somebody has something of yours, you're not going to, excuse me, please, please, can I have my property back? No, you're going to be like, hey, man, hey, that's the attitude. No, that was mine. You took it. I want it back, or else. No. Okay, so again, how did the oppressor do it one way, but they telling us to do it another way? That is a wolf that's intending to make you his meal. This is the Olosopher. Give me some more Olosophy. Third eye's always awake. Cyclops, let's awaken the world.